Sonic the Hedgehog needs no introduction. He's the world's fastest hedgehog and has a vast library of amazing games. But there's one in particular that I'd like to talk about a little more extensively today, and that is Sonic Colors. This video was made out of pure excitement and nothing else. Take that with a grain of salt how you will. That being said, I'm SoulCakeLive, and this is why I love Sonic Colors. I first played Sonic Colors on the Nintendo Wii. I grew up with the middle to late 2000 Sonic games, so getting right into Sonic Colors was nice and easy since I was already familiar with Sonic Unleashed. Right off the bat, the vibrant worlds and the bright colors were literally eye candy for 9-year-old SoulCake. The opening theme and introduction are amazing and drew me right in even before I got my copy of the game as a holiday gift. Once I had finally gotten the game, I was ready to jump right into this interstellar adventure. At first, I was really bad at the game, as I somehow kept getting game overs on Starlight Carnival Act 1. How did this happen? Well, hell if I know, I was 9 years old. That being said, when I first played Colors, Sonic sounded a little different to what I was used to. My 9-year-old brain was used to Sonic sounding like this.
Hey, we should do this again sometime!
And all of a sudden, he now sounds like this.
Let's do that again sometime!
In summation, I didn't know anything about what voice acting was at the time. I'm an early 2000s kid, so I grew up with Jason Griffith's Sonic, and as most of you may know, Sonic Colors was one of the first Sonic games to feature Roger Craig Smith as the Blue Blur. It was a bit of an adjustment, but it was one that I was able to make in due time because it was still Sonic.
Bro, it's just...
Now, why don't we talk a little more about Colors itself, huh? Colors is out of this world. Literally. This game sees Sonic and Tails sneaking into Dr. Eggman's Interstellar Amusement Park through an ominously huge space elevator. I mean, it's gotta be an evil plan, especially after he just tried to split the Earth in half. The Interstellar Amusement Park contains... You can put a price on planets? The story is obviously nothing too crazy. You got Sonic, you got Tails, who deserves all the head pats in the world, and you got Yacker, who also deserves head pats. Obviously one of the more lighthearted stories in the series compared to previous games such as Unleashed and Adventure 2. Not that it's a huge problem, but we do get a lot of Sonic talking, especially to himself. But, you know, it's goofy, I like it.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
A fair amount of the game is in 2D, with there still being more than enough 3D sections to compensate. Each world contains 6 acts with different obstacles to overcome and different paths to get to the goal ring at the very end. Each of the Act 1 levels from every world act as a sort of full-length level, kind of like the Unleashed-style daytime stages. To go off of this, sometimes a different act will start where the Act 1 level ends, and continues onward from there. And sometimes a set piece that was used in a previous act will show up again in a later level, but the layouts are different enough to the point where it feels like you're going through a completely different level entirely, as some levels are more focused on very specific gimmicks. Not to mention, speedrunning the game is also ridiculously fun, because when you do the levels over and over again, you always know the layout! See, look at that! Look what I just did! I did that without looking! Of course, I can't forget about the Wisps, one of the core gimmicks of Sonic Colors, but I'll get into that in just a little bit, because it'd be an absolute insult if I didn't talk about the music of Sonic Colors. This game very easily has a top 5 Sonic original soundtrack in my books. It's nothing but bangers. They really just put all bangers into this game. Now, onto the bosses. While I wouldn't say they're the best that the series has to offer, the bosses in this game are pretty fun for what they're worth. Some a little shorter than others, but still kind of fun. Now, as for the final boss, I don't think reusing this thing in 2 future Sonic games was a very good idea, at least for a final boss. I feel like they would work better as mini-bosses. Wow, look at that! Now on to what makes Sonic Colors stand out. Not even sugarcoating a thing at all, I love the Wisps in this game. Each and every one of them spice up the levels with their unique mechanics that add so much more depth to all the acts. And more often than not, the music that goes with these really gets me moving. Now, was it necessary for them to show up in the next 3 Sonic games? Talk for another day. In Sonic Colors, the level design encourages you to use them to your utmost advantage. Doing so gives you a much better chance of earning an S rank on a stage, because in Colors, S ranks are dependent on both your time and your score. But mostly your score. And, thankfully, there's a crapload of methods you can use to get the best score possible. Sometimes you can't access a path earlier on when you don't have a specific Wisp unlocked, which makes replaying past levels in order to find the red rings really enjoyable. Speaking of the red rings, we're gonna get to that in just a moment, but first, going back to how score works in this game, there's a ton of ways to build up score. Killing enemies, doing quick steps, using Wisps, pulling off sick drifting turns. You'll be able to see all the bonuses that you can accumulate in the menu on the top right. And yeah, some of those can really stack up pretty high. And now for a quick intermission. Considering how this is actually my first proper video essay, I figured I might as well introduce myself. That being said, hi there, I'm SoulCakeLive. Welcome to my channel. I'm a fresh college graduate in the field of game design, and I'm a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, obviously, why else would I be making this video? I do variety streaming every once in a while, so if you want to catch me there, then look no further beyond twitch.tv/SoulCakeLive. If you're enjoying this video so far, then smash that like button and consider subscribing if you want to see more videos from me. That being said, let's get back to the Interstellar Amusement Park. Did you know that this game has multiplayer? Yes, Sonic Colors has a mode made for cooperative play. Said form of multiplayer is Gameland, otherwise known as the Sonic Simulator.
And no, I'm not talking about you.
Thankfully, if you're alone on a Friday night, God aren't you pathetic, but you'll still be able to experience what Gameland has to offer. By default, you'll have 7 levels to play from, but you can unlock even more by collecting the red rings in the main story. Some people surprisingly forget about this, but if you're playing Gameland by yourself, you can switch to the other virtual hedgehog by pressing the designated assist button. In the original game on the Wii, you were actually able to use your Miis in this mode, which was a really cool implementation of that feature. Sadly, it doesn't return in Colors Ultimate, but we do at least get to pick from a few more colored Sonics, which is really nice. Some of these colors look awfully familiar to certain other hedgehogs that have appeared in the Sonic universe, both in and outside of the video games. If you manage to complete all 3 levels in one column, then you're rewarded with a Chaos Emerald of that column's color. I think this detail deserves just a little more appreciation than it gets. Some other fun facts about Gameland is that, did you know that levels 4-1 and 3-2 are respectively based on Spring Yard and Scrap Brain Zone from Sonic 1? Yeah, look at them, the layouts are completely similar. Take that, Frontiers! I'm just kidding, I love Frontiers. 1-3 also definitely gives off a lot of Marble Zone vibes. Don't know for sure though. It's a shame that I had never gotten the chance to enjoy the full experience of the multiplayer mode in Sonic Colors. Until I decided to change that! So yeah, I actually called up 2 of my best friends from high school to, of course, catch up with them because it's been quite some time since I've seen them, and, in doing so, fancied them to play some Sonic Colors multiplayer, and they were more than happy to help me out. My friends were able to learn the game pretty quickly, and without hesitation, off they were. The multiplayer mode ended up being ridiculously fun. It probably helped that I already had all the levels available during this session. The reason the game does this is because the first set of available levels don't utilize any of the Wisps, whereas the later ones do, which makes sense as you'll also be unlocking the Wisps throughout the game along with, assuming that you're collecting them, the red rings, and by proxy the game land levels. And speaking of the Wisps, did you know that if you use 2 Wisps with your friend at the same exact time, you'll get a combo Wisp? Cue the montage. Why isn't this talked about more? Multiplayer Sonic games are really fun. I just feel like it would be so cool if they made another game, a new game, where you could experience everything that it has to offer with a group of friends. Whoa, would you look at that? I think we're in pretty good hands, fellas. Going back to the red rings, let's talk about those for a bit. Overall, I personally really like hunting for them in Sonic Colors. You may not be able to get all of them immediately, but as previously mentioned, it's purely by design that that's how it is. Some paths are initially blocked off from obtaining a red ring, depending on whether or not you have the right Wisp for the right job. In my most recent playthrough of the game, one thing that I did to make the red ring hunt a little more easier for myself was that I played through Acts 1 of Planet Wisp and Asteroid Coaster to unlock the spikes and the frenzy, so that I didn't have to worry about coming back to them again later on. But once you have all the red rings, and once you have completed all the game land levels, and have collected all of the Chaos Emeralds, your grand reward is none other than this 100% award is really cool because, from what I remember, this is the first mainline Sonic game to feature a playable version of Super Sonic ever since Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. If we're counting spin-offs, then that would have been Sonic Rider Zero Gravity. Another really amazing game on the Wii, by the way. Due to how most, if not all of the levels in Sonic Colors were designed with the Wisps in mind, all the levels change up their layouts whenever you have Super Sonic equipped. Nice and easy. Honestly, it's one of my favorite rewards for 100%ing a Sonic game. The fact that they were even gonna make it cost money at one point in Sonic Forces? Talk for another day. Moving on to the next segment of this video. By now, I'm sure most, if not all of you, have noticed that I've been using footage from Sonic Colors Ultimate. So, let's talk about it, because boy do I have a lot of things to say. And probably not the things that you'd expect. First off, I honestly think Colors Ultimate is a neat remaster. Not perfect by all means, obviously, but neat. And sure, it's still got some bugs or so in there. But overall, ever since the updates, I think it's in a pretty nice and playable state. You think I give a damn what the internet thinks? No, I don't. Do I care that most of the Sonic fanbase hates on Colors Ultimate? No! No, I don't. This is my video, I can do whatever the hell I want. One of the things that carries Ultimate for me over the original game are the customization options. I think they're really cool. You can customize Sonic's shoes, his gloves, give him a nice little aura to circulate him, and even change up his boost effects. If you're like me and you purchased the Digital Deluxe Edition, you're granted really awesome cosmetics based on the Sonic movie. Another thing that carries this version of the game for me is the perfect homing attack. If you land a homing attack while the white and green ripples overlap, time it right and you'll get an excellently sounding sound cue. And you'll obtain a small amount of boost that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. Hitting action chains with the perfect homing attack is ridiculously fun and addicting. Maybe a little too fun and addicting. Sometimes the perfect homing attack will break the game's sound engine, which, I mean, can't get broken enough already. As much as I love Colors Ultimate, I know it does have some of its faults, with its sound engine being one of them, which was one of the bugs that they initially fixed, thankfully. Regardless, it's a really fun mechanic that puts a nice spin on the homing attack. I also really like the park tokens and the tail saves. In some cases, you can use the tail save to respawn, and every other item on stage will also respawn. And you even keep your rings. And sure, we don't have save files anymore in Colors Ultimate, but I feel like the eggshell kind of makes up for it for the most part since it's meant for speedrunning. Now, let's talk about the soundtrack. I will preface by saying that not every remix in Colors Ultimate is perfect and or better than the original, but I don't think it's meant to be. But I mean, 2 soundtracks in one game? Oh, Sega, don't mind if I do. The worst part about the Sonic Colors Ultimate soundtrack is that you're hit with the 3 worst remixes first, all 3 of which come from Tropical Resort. Not so great for a first impression, but most of the tracks after that are pretty nice. I know not everyone is a fan of the Planet Wisp remixes, since there is a heavy emphasis on bass, but I still really like them a ton, especially Act 2. The Colors Ultimate remixes aren't trying to replace the original tracks, but rather just adding a unique flair and spin to the soundtrack, one that I cannot help but enjoy for the most part. And if you don't happen to like it, then that's completely okay. Colors Ultimate has 3 options for the music. The default option is called the Ultimate Music Mix, which essentially makes it so that each of the 6 acts in every world has their own music track to go with it. You'll get 3 of the remix tracks and 3 of the original soundtracks. But let's say you absolutely despise the new soundtrack. There's those of you who prefer the original music tracks from 2010 and only the original music tracks from 2010. Colors Ultimate has you covered. You can toggle on the original music and get right back to play. Now some of you are mad lads out there and like the Sonic Colors Ultimate music tracks more than the original tracks. Sonic Colors Ultimate also has you covered in that regard. Me personally, I like to stick with the Ultimate Music Mix, to get a bit of both. The best of both worlds, if you will. Hats off to you, though, if you do choose only the Ultimate remixes. The one other thing that Sonic Colors Ultimate has are the rival rushes. Get 15 red rings in any of the zones, and Metal Sonic will approach you and ask for a race. With an interesting looking advertisement. Yeah. Pre-recorded CPU races aren't necessarily groundbreaking by any means, but beating Metal Sonic for the first time will net you a crap ton of park tokens that you can use in the shop. And completing all the races nets you with the Dark Aura and Dark Boost, which are honestly one of my favorite cosmetics in the game. So for me, it's worth it. Supposedly Metal Sonic was initially planned to be a playable character in Colors Ultimate, which, man were we robbed. It would have been so cool. But hey, at least we can still play as Metal Sonic in Sonic Racing Transformed in Team Sonic Racing. There are other games where we can also play as Metal Sonic, but we don't talk about those as much. Especially not you! Hey, so remember when I was talking about the multiplayer? Well, apparently during that session, me and my friends managed to pull this off somehow. Oh, what the hell? What the fuck?
Can we try that again?
Again, it's not a perfect remaster, but I think there's some things that can be enjoyed from it for almost anyone. And some things that will just never change. All in all, I love Sonic Colors Ultimate for what it is. Alright, let's talk about the DS version of the game for a little bit. While I very much favor the console incarnation of the game, I still want to briefly acknowledge Colors DS before ending the video. Some people like to think of it as Sonic Rush 3. Now, Sonic Rush games are ones that feature Blaze as a playable character. Okay, so she's in the game, but is she playable? Yeah, no, that's what I thought. Get out of here. Thanks to the efforts of Dimps, the DS variation of the game has a surprising amount of differences from its console counterpart. For one, as mentioned, it definitely plays like a Rush 3. I'm not saying it is Rush 3, but it definitely plays like a Rush 3. More of Sonic's friends are featured in the story, and there are a few different Wisps available that aren't in the console version, such as the Red Burst and the Violet Void. And there's also special stages to collect the Chaos Emeralds in. If you get all the emeralds in this version of the game, you're treated to a secret final boss with Supersonic, which is pretty neat if that's what you're into. I still personally prefer the console version of the game, but I still think there's plenty of fun to be found from the game's DS counterpart. Now for the last segment of this video, I should probably talk about the music a little more. I need to talk about the soundtrack just a little more. Throughout this whole video, I've been playing music exclusively from the Sonic Colors games and nothing else. I imagine that if you're a Sonic fan who's watching this video, then you've probably heard the entire soundtrack already. But for those who have not, I hope that the songs that I've played have given you a pretty good idea of how this soundtrack speaks for itself. There is a reason why I think Colors and Recolors combined are a top 5 for me. I don't know how to explain it other than it's just on a whole different level that's quite literally and figuratively out of this world. Tomoya Ohtani and his crew really popped off as per usual. Cash Cash provided wonderful vocal themes in the form of Reach for the Stars and Speak With Your Heart, and like I said earlier, it's okay to not like the Recolors editions from Sonic Colors Ultimate, but it doesn't mean you're right. And that's not the big takeaway here. The big takeaway is that no matter which way you spin it, the Colors soundtrack is an absolute beast among the many wonderful OSTs that we've gotten for the Sonic series. That being said, I think it's time we wrap things up. So, to sum it all up, while I definitely don't think that it's the best game in the series or story, I think that Sonic Colors is an awesome game. The game has been getting bullied a little bit lately for completely unjustified reasons, in my opinion, so I just wanted to talk about why I enjoy it so much. It's no surprise that it's one of the highest renowned Sonic games for the time that it's been around, and I know that I can go back to it any day and still find new ways to get through the game and experience it in its full Interstellar glory. And I didn't even mention this during the video, but the Rise of the Wisps short is awesome. Love the animation. Yeah. This was why I love Sonic Colors. And that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. What are your thoughts on Sonic Colors? Let me know in the comments down below. Oh, and huge shoutouts to Izzy for making the thumbnail for this video. Go follow them on Twitter. Until next time, this is SoulCake, signing off. Take care.